exciting, great speakers, and especially being women, amongst women, and a few men, I guess. It's very nice to see always women prevailing. So thank you for inviting me to Turkish Win and coming here to listen to me today. However, I'm not sure as to what and how, which Shafak you would like to listen to. Perhaps Shafak with her love for arts, and who dreams actually of a day, I don't know which day, whether it will come or not, to paint in seclusion, away from everyone. Or maybe the one who is passionately in love with human rights, its defenders and the concept of equality. Though I chose my more hidden love for innovation that lifts up barriers and delivers equal right to life in its silent but powerful ways as it embraces us all. This latter love story actually starts with a part of my personal story, although I have often been surprised that people were interested in my story because it's a very simple one. At the age of 19, as an ordinary student, I fell under a train which was about to depart with its doors open while escorting a friend of mine who was for a treatment for cancer. The fall was not a problem, let's call it an error of civilization. I could have stood up and wiped off the oil off my face and go on, of course, if the train wasn't moving towards the next town in its destination. With the train's journey, mine without all four limbs also started, rather legless. Here you need a little detail, which will be relevant later on, I promise. My mother has always been interested in nicking my shoes, and unfortunately our shoe sizes are the same. On the other hand, my left ear is what we call a scoop ear in Turkish. I will not show it to you. It's only my left ear, and in other words, it's sailing away to the other direction than my right ear. And to my disdain, I have been always teased about it since my childhood. I should elaborate on the reason why I mention these two insignificant details. When my mother came to see me when I was in intensive care following my normal, ordinary accident, the doctors did not allow her in my room because they feared my morale could be destroyed because of its emotional impact. After a long process of begging, she succeeded and was let in my room. In her words, I was in bed, wrapped around in giant blue bandages on my missing limbs and head. But it was not bandages she cared about. While I was anesthetized and lying in bed, she questioned why I do not have my ear fixed by a plastic surgery when I have the chance and time. I replied by saying, I see that you're wearing my shoes now. I guess I can give you some of those high heels now. And I remember she was very happy to hear that. After seeing the relaxed conversation between us two, and a few laughters, the doctors relaxed too and allowed her visiting me infinitely. They realized I would stand up from this fall just fine. Even though my mother kept drawing similarities between me and ancient Greek statues of goddesses, I really knew, I knew that the goddesses did not have to bother walking on earth. I was aware that I had some parts missing that would make my survival in real life a bit harder. And I had to find a way of becoming more myself in order to make up for what I have missed. As it is often said, to restart from where one falls make people stronger, because they would already know the very difficult start, as many of us would know here, that awaits if they fall again. This always allows them to be a step ahead of those who have never fallen, so be happy. As you can guess, restarting the journey, the rest of the process continued with what we can call learning the new life, understanding the new life, learning to stand up, and so on. Up until then, I had only ever made myself busy with arts. But after this point, for the first time in my life, I really noticed the great contribution science and innovation makes to our daily lives. I became familiar with the miracles that make equal right to life possible through the great research for answers, for knowledge. When life hits you with a sledgehammer and you stumble, if you can stand up again, thanks to the faith patience, and investment of strangers in another part of the world. Innovation actually reminds you that you have new and many indispensable friends with whom you never actually met. Mechanical engineers, the inventors, Harry Jennings and Herbert Everest, actually came into my life this way. They invented the first lightweight steel foldable wheelchair in 1933, and they became my acquaintances in my life as a user of the modern wheelchair in 2000s. Two friends were motivated to invent and introduce modern wheelchair as Mr. Everest had broken his back in a mining accident and lost the ability to walk. Today, everyone, from elderly to pregnant women, to those who are ill or with broken legs, benefits from it. And those that we may choose to call handicapped, or those who may choose to call wheelchair users. Currently, a young designer in the United Kingdom is about to obtain the international patent for a wheelchair that can be folded down to a single wheel. As someone who travels as often as I do, he is the only man I laid my eyes and watching closely these days. Although I cannot help but be surprised at the fact that something that is thought to have been in use for almost 5,000 years, I'm talking about the wheel, has been integrated into the modern world this late. This shows how little trust and investment we place in innovation processes. It took millennia to think of attaching wheels to a chair, or maybe approving it to approve human life. Even the bicycle had been invented in the 1840s, but it took another century for a modern wheelchair to be designed. When I think about this, I always visualize a temple with endless stairs rising to the air. I think of those in their quest to be closer to God, building those temples and laying the foundations for modern architecture that made our lives harder. And because getting closer to the God, they forgot about people. And that human-centered thinking and science would never allow this, and actually would never forget about people. As I need to use wheelchairs or bionic legs one day, I hope, please don't think that I only recognize the great contributions of science for my own comfort. I'm also aware of other miracles of innovation that helps closing the gap of inequalities between humankind due to our differences. For instance, I know, and being in Microsoft building, I thought it would be good to mention, I know what wondrous role MSN Messenger played for deaf people. Deaf community who had great difficulties communicating with each other just a quarter of a century ago. I have witnessed how happy deaf partners, friends, were for being able to communicate over the internet without the assistance of a person who can hear. For this reason, I'm passionately attached to computers and the internet, that innovation specifically, which plays a crucial role for equal right to a dignified life for all. Whenever I see a computer with a camera embedded, I think of two deaf people telling each other of their problems, stories of the day, or secrets independently, freely, and privately. The hardest, I hope, privately. Big brother watching us. The hardest obstacle faced by blind, deaf, physically and mentally disabled people, namely finding a skilled and dignified job in the market, is also made easier by the contributions of science, if only we can get rid of our cultural and personal prejudices. Inventions served and continue to serve the silent and defenseless of us, whose names and pains we do not know. Inventions protect us from being crushed under the wild marathon of humanity towards progress. They also contribute greatly to our laying the foundations of human rights and equality. I'm of course not talking about the science that discovered cluster bombs that leave 1 out of 2 people disabled, which I got to witness personally when I worked in post-war Lebanon or elsewhere in post-conflict places. Or the science which poisons nature while serving the needs of commerce. Thankfully, human-centered science prevails and continues its role in protecting the benefits of majority of people. On the other hand, innovation and knowledge dry up and die in places where freedom is suppressed and robbed off of people. On the other hand, society's fears also destroy these freedoms. So we need to get rid of our fears nationally and globally. I would like to elaborate on this with a little story. A young cousin of mine is an intelligent college student. She wants to be a medical engineer, and during Bayram, I visited their small town where they live. I recommended, when I heard her ambitions, I recommended one of the most advanced and famous schools in this field. She answered strongly and said, "I would never sell my knowledge to foreigners. We discovered medical engineering, and I will not let foreigners to steal it from us." I didn't want to add to her teenage rage and acted calmly. I delayed the talk I would have with her about knowledge actually being universal. However, as the evening progressed, I no longer needed to explain anything. At some moment, her mother and her aunt started to talk about their illnesses as middle-aged women and began pronouncing foreign words as if they were speaking fluent French. They were talking about the medicine they used for heart problems, diabetes, blood pressure, and all had names that were not in their native language. I asked my niece how her mother and her aunt suddenly and miraculously started speaking French. As to my knowledge, they didn't know any other languages. She thought we discovered these medicines, I mean my cousin, who is the college student, and never thought about the fact that they had French names as patented by their inventors. She noticed for the first time that a medicine discovered by a Swiss citizen saved the life of her mother in that moment, her mother not being a Swiss citizen. She understood that she could do the same for others, innovate and spread her innovation across borders if she wishes in Turkish. This proves that the inventions unfortunately don't mean much on their own. They also need to be valued culturally. Regrettably, a very small proportion in the world values science and innovation as it deserves to be. Overall, I believe social freedoms are the most important motivating factor for innovation. My experience in countries where fundamental human rights are not enshrined, such as in Iran, where I worked for 2.5 years, made me believe this. Inventions spread fear because they shake rooted traditions at their core, because bad governments believe their rule over their people will be weakened. They resist attempts at spreading innovation. In my culture, we have a widespread old saying, "Başıma icat çıkarma." Don't bring about an invention on our heads, I guess. As if it is a burden, which is to the contrary, as we all know, I hope. In order for innovation to be valued more, we need to show the rest of the world in the lands and communities where we live. It may be Kars, it may be Colorado. The importance of science and arts for humanity, human rights, is contribution in achieving equal right to a dignified life for all, and remove all political limitations imposed on science and innovation. If only we understand and start telling others about the miraculous touch of innovation in our day-to-day lives, just like my leg and the wheelchair and my great friend Herbert Everest that I got to meet later in my life. We can start progressing more equally then. And this we can do. Any of us can do. Every day. If we can only look around daily and see what comforts, whatever wishes was brought to us by innovation, and appreciate it and tell the other one. Only then we would be ready to journey to new ideals and think more about equal right to life, not only for ourselves, but for our other friends finally, in nature. In a strange way, my ordinary accident led me to discover and appreciate human-centered innovation. This made me feel part of human endeavor and humanist thinking in my own journey. And love of human innovation, appreciating its true value, should not cost everyone an arm and a leg, like it did in my story. If only everyone, you, look around your life with an inquiring eye, you will discover that everything around you that makes your life easier and more pleasurable, if you want more aesthetic, or whatever you wish, is thanks to innovation. And in my own capacity, I shall always strive and try to remove the shackles which keep us further away from science and innovation, including my new journey. I believe everyone should try to do this for the love of innovation and humankind. Only then you and I can pay back our debt to science for our freedom, allowing us all to stand up from those fallen moments, to find our way in life again, like I did, and to have equal access to a dignified life along with everyone else. I would like to leave by paying tribute to everyone who has contributed in some way to the world of innovation, and therefore humanity, being a scientist, social thinker, or an artist. And would like to direct your applause mostly at my friend, Mr. Everest. Thank you.